Hey Math 8, it's Mr. Hussey here with Monday's lesson. We only got 4 days of school left, and we sure do miss you guys. Hope to see you here pretty soon. I think there's going to be an event coming up that the school is going to email about, so hope to see you soon. The school year is coming to an end. Monday's lesson is going to be this, okay? So Monday's lesson, we're going to do a quick review of angle relationships in algebra. A couple students reached out to me that this didn't make a whole lot of sense to them, and I think I can simplify it today in a really compact way that should help you. And then we're going to go to the next lesson, which we did in the live Zoom on Thursday, was very similar. Okay, similar idea to this lesson, right? This was Wednesday's lesson. Thursday was very similar. It's just we dealt with different types of angles. Okay, so we're going to also finish up those problems, numbers 9 through 13 there from Thursday's Zoom. So your lesson is two-part. It's a review of angle relationships just to help you. Hopefully this will be about 5 minutes or less. And then it's to complete the problems that I posted on Thursday, complete that worksheet. And then on Tuesday, we'll get into a new topic called, I believe it's the Pythagorean theorem, but I have to take a look. There's a couple more topics we got to learn this year. Okay, so here we go. So a review, we're going to start with a review, angle relationships in algebra. So the big thing here is just to know complementary, two angles make 90, right? Supplementary are two angles that make 180. Supper's bigger than any other meal, so that's how I think of it, is 180 is bigger than 90. So supplementary angles make 180. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees, like this. And then vertical angles are two angles that are across from each other with the same measure. Okay, so for instance, in this case up here, these two angles are vertical because if this one's 23, then that one's 23. Okay, these two angles are also vertical with each other because if this is 150, that's 150. So once you know those relationships, then everything off this lesson is predicated off those three. Okay, so for instance, like number 3, you just take this one plus this one, so 3x plus 11 plus this, and that equals 90 because together they make 90. So over here I did 3x plus 11 plus the 8x plus 2 equals 90. And then we combine the like terms, we do the algebra, and we get x equals 7. All right, once you get x equals 7, you plug it back in here and also here, and you'll be able to find how many degrees this is and how many degrees that is. And if you did it correctly, these two, when you add up this one and this one, it should equal 90. Okay, now if you need to pause this, you can pause it and look at my work. But number 1 is the same sort of idea, except for number 1, what we're given here is these are vertical angles. So instead of saying this plus this equals 90, we have to say this one equals this one. And that's why up here we have 8x plus 31 equals 6x minus 9. Okay, we work that out. We get x equals 5, right? You do the algebra, you get x equals 5. And then you plug it back in here. And when you, 16 times 5 is 80, minus 9 is 71. And if this one's 71, that one has to be 71. Now, coincidentally, if you wanted to, you could also find this pretty easily, because if this is 71, then this would have to be like the number that with 71 makes 180, because these two here are what we call supplementary. They add up to 180 because it's a straight line here. So in this case, I think that number would be like 109. Okay, so 109 plus 71 equals 180. But they don't ask you to know that one. All right, on number 2, the relationship's a little different. So it's like this one plus this one equals 180, because in this case, they're supplementary. So everything here is based off, are they complementary, like this one? Are they supplementary, like this one? Or are they vertical, like this one? Now, the problems do get a little trickier as you go through this lesson. This was a couple days ago, I think Wednesday. Like this one's a little trickier. Okay, number 10. So if you take a quick look at number 10, you'd have to say, well, I guess maybe it's not as tricky as 9. 9 looks a little trickier. So they give you, actually, let's go back to 10. First, you'd have to set this one plus this one equals 180, right? Because they make a straight line together, or supplementary. So that this plus this equals 180. You'd have to solve for x. Then once you get x, you plug it into here and here 2 different times, okay? You'll get a degrees here and a degrees here, Okay. Now, say you get, I don't know what you get, but say you get 30 degrees here. Then you can immediately say, oh, okay, now this one's 30 because these are vertical. And then once you know what this one is, now you can work off these two because they make 90. So if this one's 30, you know that has to be 60. Okay, and that's how you would do this lesson. So that's just a quick review from a couple days ago. I hope that helps a few of you guys who reached out and said it was just giving you some trouble. And then it's the cool thing about that lesson is it's going to match up very well with this next lesson. So the next lesson, which we started on our Zoom meeting on Thursday, for those of you guys who were able to make it, that lesson dealt with parallel lines, transversals, and algebra. So I did a quick little video there for those of you guys who didn't make the Zoom to kind of give you the idea of what was going on. Okay, I gave you the vocabulary words, which you're going to have handy. You're going to need those to be with you or next to you when you're doing this. Okay, but there's 4 different types of angles, angle relationships on that vocabulary sheet. So when there's a transversal that cuts through 2 parallel lines, whenever that happens, whenever there's 2 parallel lines in a transversal, there's these things called alternate exterior angles. Okay, there's also things like if it was here and here, it would be what we call alternate interior angles. And then you have something called, like, let's go down to this one. This would be alternate interior. Okay, this one here is something we call consecutive interior because they're on the same side. Okay, and in this case, those two would add up to 180, but all that's on your notes. In this case, the alternate interior over here don't add up to 180. They're equal to each other. So you'd have to set this equal to that, just like we were doing the other day with the complementary, supplementary. Okay, and then there's another thing called corresponding angles, which looks like this. When there's one here and one here, those are called corresponding angles. Okay, or like this one here, if I put a dot there, this one corresponds to this one. Those are called corresponding angles, and those are equal to each other. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'll do one of the harder ones here for you. Let's take, I forget, I think I showed you, I gave you an answer key with some of these on them attached to that lesson, but I'm just gonna do one anyway because if you have the answer key, at least you can see the steps if I pick the wrong one. So let's take a look at number 12. All right, number 12 says if J, line J, right, is parallel to line K. Okay, so if these lines are parallel. All right, my dog's giving me a Ranger. Come on, Ranger. Hey, can someone get Ranger, please? Sorry. That's all right. Thank you. Ranger, I'll play with you later. All right. So if these are parallel, line J and line K are parallel, and angle 2, measure of angle 2 equals 7x plus 13. So this one here is equal to 7x plus 13. And the measure of angle 8, which is this one, is 10x minus 44. Okay, then find each angle measure. Okay, so this is really fun. Like once you get the idea of this is really fun. So you're gonna need to look back at those notes. There's no shortcut in that 10-minute video on the notes. Okay, but 2 and 8 are what we call alternate exterior angles. Okay, so if you don't understand how the heck I'm coming up with that, look at the notes and read the notes and figure that out. Those are what we call alternate exterior angles. Now, the definition for alternate exterior says that those angles have the same measure. So we're going to say that 7x plus 13 is equal to 10x minus 44. You're going to have to set them equal to each other. Okay. Now, if, for instance, they were corresponding angles, like, for instance, 3 and 6, then you'd have to say 3 plus 6 equals 180. You'd have to say this one, whatever it is, plus this one, whatever it gives you, right, equals 180. Because in this case, they're not equal to each other. The 3 is what we call an acute angle. It's a small slice of pizza. I wouldn't want that slice. But the 6 is like a big slice of pizza. I would want that slice of pizza. So they couldn't be equal. It wouldn't make any sense. How could you say that 3 is equal to 6? Doesn't make any sense. So you'd have to say 3, this one plus this one equals 180. But if you look at this 2, 2's like a big chunk of pizza. That's a big chunk of pizza if you cut it. And 8 is a big chunk of pizza. They're both what we call obtuse angles. So they even look the same, okay? But the reason they're the same is because there's two parallel lines. The lines have to be parallel, and it tells you that up here that they are. And then there has to be a transversal, a line that cuts through them, okay? So once we know that all that's the case, now we can go ahead and solve this. There's a whole bunch of ways. I'm going to add a 44 to both sides. So we get 7x plus 57 equals 10x. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and I'll subtract a 7x. So we get 57 equals 3x. And then I'll divide both those by 3. So you're going to get x equals 19. Okay, that's kind of part of my answer. That's not really what they're looking for yet, but at least we're one step into it. So once I know that x equals 19, now I can go back and plug this in here and also there. Okay, so if I plug a 19 in here, that might be a time to use your calculator. So 7 times 19. Well, I know 7 times 20 is 140. And I got to shave off 7 from that. Shoot. I have to shave off 7? Yeah, I have to shave off 7 because I'm doing 19 each time instead of 20. So 140 minus 7, 133. 133 plus that 13 is 143, 146. So this is 146. Okay, if that didn't make sense to you, you can just put it in your calculator, work it out, find 7 times 19, and then add a 13. Hopefully we'll get the same thing. And now this one should be 146 too, because the rule says that alternate exterior angles are the same measure. Well, let's just chuck it in just to see. So 10 times, what, x is 19, right? So 10 times 19 is 190 minus 40, what's that, 150 minus 4 more, 146. So we did that right. That basically shows us we did it right. So angle 2 and 8 are 146. So let's come over here. This will be 146. This one will be 146. And that's 146 degrees. That little circle means degrees, okay? Or how much an angle opens up, right? That's your degrees. Now, it's really easy to go from here. I'm going to go here and here and say, okay, this has to be 146 because 2 and 4 are what we call vertical angles, right? Vertical are across from each other with the same measure. And then if this is 146, then this has to be 146 because 6 and 8 are vertical angles, okay? They're across from each other with the same measure. So now I know that, which are the other ones there? This one's 146 and 6 is 146. Now, if I'm going too fast, or maybe I'm not going too fast like just to learn it, but I'm going too fast for you to learn it and take notes. So you may have to pause me for a minute, but then you may have times you can speed me up to 1.5 speed, and that's fun because you can get the lesson done with quicker. All right, so now the other angle is just really easy to find. You just have to say, okay, well, if this is 146, then these two make a 180, right? They're supplementary. Or these two make a 180, right? Or these two make a 180 because together this one plus this one is a straight line, so it makes 180. So whichever way you slice it, you have to deal with 180. You minus 146. And if you do that correctly, you should get 34. Okay, so this one's 30. Let's say you did it over here. Then this one's 34. And if that's 34, then this one's 34, right? And if that's 146, then this is 34, and this is 34. So all the rest are 34. Now, there could be some situations where there's more than 2 numbers, but in this particular case, they are all 34 because we're working with 146. So that's a 34, right? If that's 146, that's a 34. And then these are vertical, so they're both 34. So that's how you do this type of problem. Everything's predicated off, do they equal 180? Do they equal each other? On the last lesson, do they equal 90? And once you figured that out, then you can set them equal to either each other, 180 or 90. Okay, so your job for today is just to make sure you get the stuff from last week. Okay, some of you guys been maybe slacking off a little bit. I know it's getting late in the year. Some of you guys haven't really been coming to the Zooms as much. So if that's the case, or for whatever reason you haven't got a chance to focus as much on the math, or maybe you've been trying but you just haven't got it, please make sure you understand these two concepts, as they're important. I think they're kind of fun too. All right. And then your job for today is just to finish up numbers 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 from last week. Okay, now some of you guys may have already did that because I spoke to the Zoom class about getting ahead. So some of you may have finished that. That's Monday's job. But Monday's job is also to make sure you understand this past stuff. Okay, so thanks so much, guys, for your time. Make sure you pass that sheet in from the Zoom day. So if you didn't do, some of you guys may not have done the first sheet. Make sure you do the first sheet there, which dealt with the Zoom day. So the first sheet looked like this, right? So there's a 1 through 8, which should be done. Okay, but if you didn't do that, do that. And then 9 through 13. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Take care. God bless you.